Yeah. Hi, Cooper.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, shall we make a start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, perfect.
Let
Yeah,
me,
thank you.
I'll go walk over next to Sylvian here. Um, well, welcome everybody. I am Cooper from the Recoup, and we are all very fortunate to have Sylvain Filippi, if I'm pronouncing that
That
right.
that's it.
That sounds good. Yep, he is the CTO at Envision Racing. How are you doing, Sylvian?
I'm all good. Great to be here.
Yeah. So, welcome to the Metaverse, right? Here we go. So we've had some questions submitted to us that we would like answered. And happy Earth Day to everyone, by the way. So,
Yeah, happy Earthday.
yeah. So we'll start off real quick. Congratulations! I know that you guys had a pretty successful race in Rome recently. Am I correct about that?
Yeah. 2 races, 2 podiums. Really good.
That's right. You have a driver. His name's Robin. He's a Dutch guy. He's really good, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very good indeed.
So if there's anybody, before we hop, I know we're on limited time, so but I do have a couple of questions. If there's anybody out there that doesn't know what Formula E is, can you just give us a quick breakdown of what Formula E is and what Envision Racing is?
Yeah, sure. So welcome everyone here. So Formula E is a relatively new sport, even though we are now racing in our 8th season. But grand scheme of things, still pretty new. And yeah, it's basically the pinnacle of electric motorsport. So we race under the banner of the FIA, which is the world governing body for motorsports, where you have Formula One, Le Mans Racing, World Rally, and then you have now Formula E, which is the World Championship. So we race all around the world, mostly in city centers, and we design, develop, and produce our own bespoke electric race cars, which is really exciting. So you can see the one here. So and we particularly focus on developing the electric powertrain and the battery. So the idea behind Formula E and our team in particular is to do 2 things, which we'll probably talk about today. The first one is to accelerate the rate of innovation in electric cars. So the aim is that everyone hopefully will drive electric cars very soon. But I personally don't want people to be forced to drive electric cars. We want to make electric cars so good that anyone would choose to drive an electric car because it's faster, smoother, cheaper to run, better acceleration, whatever, all this kind of stuff. Right. So that's our aim, which is to make these cars just better than combustion engine cars in every respect. So that's the first job. So we develop our cars and we put the best motorsport engineers on the problem. And then the second point, which is also why we're here today, is to basically how do we use this huge marketing and media platform? Around 400 million people watch Formula E every year, and it's growing very fast. So for a young sport, it's a tremendous achievement. So the idea is that what we do with that platform, and my view is that we should use our share of voice to talk about the exciting solutions for the future to live in a sustainable world. And of course, as we know, mobility and transportation in general is a pretty large culprit in terms of emissions, roughly 30% of worldwide emissions, I'd say. Mm-hmm. So moving to electric mobility, powered by renewable energy, the 2 go hand in hand, will have an incredible effect, a positive effect on the world. So our job is to accelerate this.
And is it true that Envision Racing was the first carbon neutral Formula E team?
Yeah, so we've been carbon neutral for a few years now, and that's, for me, it's pretty obvious. We have to lead by example, right? We are called the Envision team. Envision is a renewable energy, manufacturing wind turbines, but also developing digital solutions for smart grids and connected cities and so on. And I recently acquired a very large battery cell manufacturer. And so now Envision is one of the largest battery cell manufacturers in the world. So given all these credentials and given what we are trying to achieve with the team, I think we couldn't be anything else but carbon neutral. So we put some very strong targets on ourselves to make sure that we reduce our emissions as much as possible, and then make sure that at the end of the day we are carbon neutral every year.
Right. And now this isn't, I'm not sure about this, but I feel like a while back, I remember reading that Formula One eventually is going to be all electric anyways, right? Am I right?
Well, no one knows. No? I'm being asked this question a lot. So no, at the moment, Formula E has the exclusive license to be electric for a very long time. So because Formula One and Formula E are very similar, we sit under the exact same governing body. Our governance is very similar. Obviously, we are based a lot in the same locations around Silverstone, so there's a lot of similarities. But also Formula E is different. We try, as an example, we try to race, pretty much all our races are in city centers, which makes our life more difficult. We have to build temporary circuits and temporary paddocks and so on. But the result is amazing, right? We get to race literally on people's doorsteps. And so it opens up a really large audience for us because we're not asking people to travel hours to come to the track. We literally come to their doorstep. So that's really exciting. And also for the TV product, we get all these amazing races with, the Eiffel Tower and so many amazing backdrops next to our races. So we are very different to Formula One in that respect. But yeah, in the future, who knows? Like ultimately, our cars are getting so much faster every year. We're getting to a point where some city tracks will become difficult for us because the cars are just too fast. And technology is improving so rapidly that soon, electric cars will be as fast as combustion cars, even on a racetrack. So by then, who knows? Who knows what will happen? But either way, it will be a good thing, right? Because already it means that the perception, the awareness of the fact that electric cars can be really exciting is already there and will definitely be there in a few years' time.
Yeah. All right. So, we're here at the Algorand Green Metaverse, inside of the Algorand Green Metaverse. So I guess it would be appropriate to ask you, so why did you choose the Algorand Foundation to be your long-term partner?
Yeah, great question. So it goes back to our purpose, basically. When we started this race team, as I said, we are an independent team. We are owned by a renewable energy company. We're not trying to sell any cars or any products. What we want to do is use our share of voice in Formula E and talk to our audience and to educate around climate change. And I'm a big believer that we have to make the future exciting. We have to show. We've been saying that for years. We have amazing technologies in the pipeline that we're now testing on the track. We have many things to be excited about, where we can have a future that is both sustainable, carbon neutral, kind on the planet, but also really exciting. So for us, we cannot do that ourselves. That's really obvious, right? So we live in a world now where everything is connected. To achieve this future, we need many different industries that didn't used to talk together to now gather together and work together. So same for us. So for us, it's really important. We're pretty good at racing and developing race cars and electric technology, but we cannot do all this alone. So for us, we're really excited to talk to Algorand because it is very clear that blockchain in general is going to have an incredible role to play in the future of mobility. And we can deep dive a bit in that later if you want. But the future of mobility is not just electric; it's also shared and connected and autonomous, even in cities. And to create this ecosystem, we can't really see any other way to do it that is efficient and carbon neutral rather than blockchain. But of course, the prerequisite is that we can only work with companies and people that are carbon neutral themselves. And it wouldn't make sense to create a network of electric mobility if the network behind it is emitting a lot of carbon, obviously. So that's why Algorand made complete sense, because for us it's a new world. Obviously we are very good at what we do, but we are not data scientists, and we don't design blockchain. So for us it was really important to partner with the best blockchain out there for this application. And I think we're not the only ones to think that there's a very bright future for Algorand based on their eco credentials. So that's why we're here. We are learning. And on the metaverse also is very new for us. Yeah. But again, it goes back to one of my two pillars, right? There's no much point developing all this amazing technology and race cars if no one can see them. So we're always trying to find ways to be closer to our fans, interact with more people, try to make them understand the technology we're running, and we are just new to this metaverse ecosystem, but potentially I see a lot of potential in trying to bring our fans and our followers closer to what we do and give them opportunities that we couldn't do before. So we have a lot to learn, but it's a really exciting journey.
Yeah. So there's a couple of points from what you just said. I am aware of the Rome helmet NFTs. And so those look really cool. I'm wondering what is the vision for the metaverse? How do you create that connection with fans? I mean, obviously NFTs are a great way. Is there any other kind of vision that you see the potential of the metaverse and Formula E racing?
Well, as I said, give us time because we are learning, right? That's the beginning.
Yeah.
But I see potentially like us creating a hub, right? Ultimately, it's all about to make those. If you go back to the beginning, right? Why is Formula a good idea? Because it's marrying technology and sports. So sport creates a passion, creates a level of engagement with the fans that nothing else can replicate really. If you look at I heard recently like the top 10 most viewed TV moments in history were all sports moments. Like sport is what excites people and what engages people. So that's what we're trying to do with Formula E in our team. Having said that, we live in a world that's constantly evolving, and we need to reach as many people as possible from as many regions as possible, in as many demographics as possible. So we can't just keep doing things the way we've done it for the last decades. And so the metaverse opens up huge opportunities, I think, in reaching new demographics, new regions, and just simply giving more access. The problem with live events, any live event, whether it's motorsport, football, basketball, whatever, there's only so many people that can actually come to the track itself and experience it. So how do we create an experience that is as close as possible to the real thing, but giving that access to anyone around the world? And I think that I'm hugely excited by that. I don't know exactly what shape it will take, but that's marrying the excitement of sports with this very close connection between the fans and the sport itself, I think is super exciting.
Yeah. The more that sports and the metaverse and our ability to feel embodied, actually present is going to be very exciting for sports, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about creating that connection, and it's all about creating that, how close can the fans be to our day-to-day life, And then in the past, with our digital, it's quite tricky to do. But I think now we have new tools at our disposal that could actually make it possible.
So you mentioned Algorand blockchain technology in the future of mobility, and you'd said that maybe we could dive a little deeper. I'd love to hear more of what you're thinking about how the future of mobility will be transformed based on all this technology.
Yeah. So again, it's early days and it's a huge shift in the industry. Again, so it's an exciting time to be in this industry. I've been in the automotive industry myself for more than 20 years. But it's changing so rapidly. So there's now a very clear consensus. I started working on electric cars more than 10 years ago. At the time, people were not too sure, but now it's very clear, very strong consensus from the industry and government and so on that we are going towards a full electric future because it makes sense. We have to. Electric cars are more than 3 times more efficient than combustion cars. Therefore, for every mile traveled or kilometer traveled, they use 3 times less energy. And on top of that, the grid and the energy in every country is getting greener every year. So that's all good, and that's clearly the way it's going. But we need to go further, right? So there's another stat that you look at, especially in cities, which is different in other areas, but in cities and mega cities where, to be fair, most people live, the majority of the population, if you own a car, you will use it on average 3% of the time. And 97% of the time, that asset, which is an expensive asset, is not used and takes space as well in the city. So that doesn't quite make sense. So the future is clearly all cars electric, but also, especially in mega cities, cars should be shared, should be connected, should be used differently, right? And then one step beyond that, which we know many people are working on, it will take time to get there. They will also become autonomous in the future. So shared, connected, but autonomous as well, which will lower the cost of travel and will have all sort of safety benefits as well. But none of this, it's hard to imagine a future where all of this will happen, but the OS, the operating system in the background, would be kind of an old school OS. It's kind of hard to imagine, right? Because it's either going to be too slow or too expensive or just emitting too much carbon. So that's where Algorand blockchain potentially could become extremely interesting, because what we need is exactly what, in theory, we could deliver, which is huge amount of transactions, very rapid, very low cost, carbon neutral, full transparency, full trust. That's exactly what's needed for an ecosystem like this. But as I said, it's conceptual at this time, But we also know that it needs to happen. And the news, that's why our program is called Race Against Climate Change. It's a very obvious link and analogy, but we are racing to win races, But the biggest race of all is the race against climate change. Like we could do all these things at a very leisurely pace, but it's not good enough. We have to do it very quickly. And so we are trying to move large industries, which are traditionally pretty slow, right? Because manufacturing industry, they are not fast reactive business for good reasons. So we are trying to, implement and accelerate a transition that is not easy and clearly has never been done before. So yeah, I don't know if it answers your question, but there's a huge amount of potential, huge amount of work to be done. But the upside is phenomenal because once you design all of this, then you can roll it out in every single mega city around the world, and the impact, it will have an impact on actually literally billions of people.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed, and maybe, and it's a superficial, notice, but I've noticed that Europe may be a little further along in ideas like subscription models for cars and stuff like that than maybe we are over here in the States. But there does seem to be like a subscription model kind of bubbling over there. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think I don't know. Yeah, there definitely, but I think there's definitely some super good ideas and projects happening in the US as well. So, and in other parts of the world, I think it's very regional, even down to city by city almost. But for sure, what is really exciting is that everyone's going in the same direction now, which is good. Like we know where we're going, we know where we need to be, we know what the future should look like. Now it's a question of getting all these industries, IT, blockchain, automotive, industries that would have never talked before, or been at the same conference together.
Yeah.
We need to get all these people together now and build that ecosystem, which is super exciting because, again, as I said, the benefits are absolutely huge.
Yeah. You mentioned the race against climate change. There's something, the race against climate change, you do live summits. What do those look like? What are those?
Yes, absolutely. So pre-COVID, and it was a lot of people together, as I said earlier, that wouldn't necessarily mix together, right? So at a Formula E race, we put the car manufacturers, tier one suppliers, governments, and local governments as well, energy companies, utility companies, all these actors required to build that ecosystem. We bring them together, organize conferences, and we've had some fantastic discussions. So that's the point. So I'm really excited to, we'll introduce Algorand, we'll have meetings, and you'll have like local governments and the mayors of cities and all sort of players that will have a role in that ecosystem, and hopefully we can have a small part in building that pyramid, and like trying to accelerate the build of that ecosystem.
Great, thank you. Maybe just one more question, and I'll promise I'll give a floor to other people. When it comes, you mentioned, you obviously have a massive R&D side on your, within your organization, and especially when it comes to the batteries, making them more efficient. There is a lot of anxiety with drivers that have not experienced electric car, or it takes too slow to charge. Charging points are not everywhere. The ecosystem is not ready. So how do you exactly do that, considering that you are not owned by any manufacturer per se? Do you basically patent any innovation, and then you basically are selling those patents to the battery manufacturers or car manufacturers? How is that? How is the business model when it comes to that? Working on your side.
Good question. We are not.
Go on. Yeah.
Sorry. As a good question, we're actually not reinventing the wheel. As a bad pun. It's a normal trusted model where basically, for some aspects of the car we develop ourselves. Some other aspects we pull together as all the teams and manufacturers in the championship. So every championship does that. Some parts of the cars are standard, i.e. the same for every team. Some other parts are bespoke to every team. So you put that in the regulations. But then what happens is that, again, we don't do anything ourselves directly, right? So many parts we either design ourselves but manufacture somewhere else. Some other parts we have partners in. So you have many car manufacturers in Formula E. You have a lot of tier one suppliers. Pretty much the whole supply chain is somehow present in Formula E. So in terms of IP, the idea is that I personally don't need or don't have the use of the IP for mass market electric motor for road cars, because that's not my business. So what we do is that we partner with companies with whom we develop our super high-end, cutting-edge, very expensive, very high power density motors, for example. And then these companies will then use the learnings from these prototypes that essentially we run in our race cars to then improve and develop their road applications. So it's true for car manufacturers, tier one suppliers, software companies, and the list goes on. So that's the business. We are basically the tip of the R&D, if you want, and then large consumer-facing companies will kind of use that IP to improve their own products. So that's already, I can give you examples, right? For example, up to last year, all the electric cars on the road were on an EV architecture of around 300 to 400 volts, right? That was the system. In Formula since the beginning, we've been racing at about 800 volts, and now our latest generation cars, we are at 900 volts, so close to 1,000 volts architecture. It probably doesn't mean much to most of you, but you know, a few years ago, 1,000 volt or 900 volt architecture did not exist. There was no parts. You could not build a 300 kilowatt car at that level of voltage, and it creates less heat and so on. So that's an example of something that didn't exist. Would have been probably quite scary for people to adopt, but when you see that it's basically used in the racing world for 3 or 4 years safely, then that technology is ready to move to road cars.
Great.
Brilliant.
Does anybody?
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Sylvain? You can actually just chime in if you'd like. You don't have to do the jump. Yeah, I think we have.
How do you do jump? I don't know how you jump.
I think you jump if you press the settings button in the bottom right. But we have
right.
ER. We got lots of jumping now. We're all jumping. How about hey ER? Did you have a question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, I'm from China, and I'm a huge fan of your Envision racing team.
Thank you.
Yeah, I watched almost like every races, and I want to congratulate on your 2 podiums at last race in Rome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I know that your owner is a Chinese tech company called Envision Group, and I know that Envision is quite famous on their zero carbon technologies, and I just wanted to ask that the team, if you achieve the carbon neutrality, is that something that Envision can help with?
Yes, absolutely. So very good targeted question. So yes, as I said earlier, we've been carbon neutral for a few years, and Envision is certainly helping us with that. It's all about data monitoring. A lot of it, you have to be very good at monitoring all your emissions, which as a race team, we are pretty good at data and structuring data and so on. So yeah, we monitor all of that. And then we have several certifications like the PIS 2060 and Carbon Trust that basically certify that we are doing it at the highest possible level and using the gold standard offsets and so on. But you're absolutely right. Envision's purpose and mission statement now is to basically accelerate the world to net zero, right? So of course Envision have like the core technologies like wind turbines, batteries, digital with NOS and so on. But it's a really super fascinating company where they are almost vertically integrated to deliver a net zero tech solutions, which is really super exciting. It's very obvious in the case of electric cars, right? We know where we need to go, but other industries will benefit from that as well.
Thank you. And good luck to your next race.
Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I mean, if you have any questions, you can chime in right now. Otherwise, I think we'll wrap this up and thank Sylvain Filippi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it was super fun. Thank you so much. Let's do it again. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you, Sylvain and Rob, and thank you, Cooper, and thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Yeah,
You too. Take care. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.